Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's on a lot of investors' minds, right? You see
Mhm.
these big industrial companies,
Uh-huh.
and everyone's wondering, can these companies, the ones that have been doing things the same way for decades,
Right.
can they actually become leaders in this whole, like, clean energy
Yeah. Big
revolution?
transition. It's a big question.
It is a big question, and the company that we're going to use to kind of explore this question
Oh, okay.
is Air Products.
Interesting.
And they are doing some really fascinating stuff in the green hydrogen space.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So we've got this analysis. It's pretty in-depth, but I think it'll really help us understand, like, are they the real deal? Or
Right.
is this just kind of like a marketing?
Greenwashing.
Yeah, exactly.
So jumping right in.
Yeah. What stood out to you kind of initially about them?
Well, I mean, the first thing is just the size of the market they're in, right?
Okay.
Industrial gases, it's a massive market. Like, we're talking $95 billion.
Wow.
And it's projected to just keep growing steadily.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good place to be.
Attractive. Right.
But, there's always a but.
There's always a but.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, why is it growing? Where's that demand coming from?
Yeah. Good point.
It's not just your traditional manufacturing anymore.
Right.
Healthcare is a big factor. And then, of course, all these emerging green technologies.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where things get interesting, right? Exactly. Because you think of industrial gases, you don't immediately think.
Sustainability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Air Products specifically.
Okay.
Their financials, I was actually pretty impressed.
Really?
Yeah, their revenue, like, the markets go up and down, right?
Of course. Yeah.
But they've been pretty consistently between 12 and $13 billion annually.
That is consistent. Yeah.
Yeah. And that suggests to me that they have a pretty resilient business model.
Yeah. I mean, especially given, all the uncertainty we've seen.
In the economy.
Right. Exactly. So that was a big plus.
Okay.
Then you look at their operating margins, consistently above 20%.
That's impressive.
Those are good numbers.
Yeah, you gotta like that. And their return on equity, too. That's been going up significantly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which tells you they're using their investments well, generating profit.
Okay. So that's all good news.
It is, but, we always got to look at the whole picture.
Of course, yeah.
And they do have, a significant amount of long-term debt.
Oh, okay.
Now, digging into that a bit, it seems like a lot of that debt is tied to these investments, these growth initiatives.
Makes sense.
Especially in green hydrogen.
Right. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's
strategic.
Right. It's strategic debt.
Exactly.
Okay. So green hydrogen, that seems to be like their big bet.
It does.
Well, why? I mean, why are they focusing so much on this?
Well, you have to look at the clean energy transition, right? Everyone's talking about it.
Right.
But there's a bottleneck
Right.
infrastructure. Ah, I see.
They're betting that they can solve that problem.
By building it out themselves.
Exactly.
Wow.
So they're investing in both production and distribution of green hydrogen.
Okay.
And that market, I mean, it's projected to reach $72 billion by 2030.
That's huge.
Yeah. And it's growing crazy fast, like 54% per year.
It's exploding.
It is.
Okay, so I see the potential, but what makes green hydrogen so special?
Well, it's a clean energy source, right?
Okay.
It's got the potential to really decarbonize heavy industries.
The ones that are really hard to.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Yeah, and Air Products, they're not just talking about it, they're putting their money where their mouth is.
So, what are they actually doing?
Well, there's the NEM project.
Okay.
That's a partnership in Saudi Arabia, $5 billion investment.
Oh.
And then they're putting another $2 billion into a brand new hydrogen distribution network.
So they're really trying to build out that infrastructure we talked about.
Yeah, that's the key. Okay, so before we get too deep into green hydrogen, I do want to touch on their existing business.
Sure.
Because they're already a global player, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they've got over 425 facilities in the Americas.
It's impressive.
Then another 200 plus in Europe,
Mhm.
the Middle East, India,
Cool reach.
and another 200 plus across Asia.
Yeah, they're not messing around.
No, they're giant.
Yeah.
So that existing infrastructure, that's got to give them a leg up, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that global reach, it's essential for their strategy.
Okay.
They're not just building production, they're creating a whole supply chain for green hydrogen.
Ah, so that it can actually reach the people who need it.
Exactly. And don't forget, they're already world leaders in supplying other industrial gases, too.
Oh, right. Like,
Carbon monoxide, helium, all essential stuff for various industries.
so they've got the experience, they've got the infrastructure.
They're well positioned.
It's like they're setting themselves up to be the main player.
Yeah, like they're thinking long-term, strategic. But, it's not all smooth sailing.
Right. There's got to be some risks.
Plenty of risks.
Like what?
Well, we talked about their geographic concentration, right?
Yeah.
A lot of their future bets are on projects in places like the Middle East.
Which can be a little,
Unpredictable, yeah.
politically volatile, all sorts of things.
Exactly. So that's a risk to consider.
Okay, that's a big one.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, think about the scale of these projects, right?
Massive.
Massive, complex. Things can go wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
Delays, cost overruns.
Have we seen that kind of thing in this industry before?
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, it's pretty common with these large-scale industrial projects.
And what does that mean? Like, what kind of impact can those issues have on a company like Air Products?
Well, it can hit their profitability,
Oh.
put a strain on their finances, even make investors nervous.
Right, because suddenly those big bets don't look so good.
Exactly.
So they're really going to have to manage those projects very carefully.
Rigorous planning, strong project management, you got to have contingencies.
Okay, so their capital allocation strategy, it's bold, it's ambitious,
It is.
but it's also risky.
Definitely.
So let's break down some of those big investments.
'Kay.
Because we're talking serious money here.
Yeah.
A revised $7 billion investment in that blue hydrogen complex in Louisiana.
That's a big one.
Then you've got the $3.7 billion for the green hydrogen facility in Saudi Arabia.
Mm.
And then that Jazan refinery acquisition. That's an $11.5 billion joint venture.
They're not holding back.
No, they're going all in.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you?
Well, to me, it's a clear signal.
Okay.
They believe in the future of green hydrogen.
They think it's going to be big.
They think it's going to be huge.
Okay.
This is a high-risk, high-reward strategy.
Yeah, if they're right.
If they're right, they could be the leader in a massive market.
But if they're wrong.
It could be a big problem.
Yeah, okay, so let's zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
And talk about the industrial gas sector as a whole, because it seems like a pretty good business to be in, right?
Yeah, it's got its advantages.
Like what?
Well, high barriers to entry.
Right, not just anyone can.
Exactly. You need expertise, infrastructure,
Capital intensive.
very capital intensive.
Okay, so that limits the competition.
Limits the competition, and then you've got the long-term contracts.
Okay, so that means stable revenue,
Predictable revenue, yeah.
and they're not reliant on just one customer. Right?
No, they've got diversified revenue streams.
Okay, so that protects them if one
So they
customer has
don't-
problems.
They're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
And like we said, they're already well-positioned in some of these high-growth markets.
Right, so the fundamentals of the industry, they seem pretty solid.
Yeah, they're not bad.
Okay, so what else could drive growth for them besides the green hydrogen stuff?
Well, all these environmental regulations,
Yeah,
governments all over the world are pushing for cleaner solutions.
and that benefits a company like...
Like Air Products, absolutely.
Right.
Especially with their green hydrogen focus,
Okay, what else?
infrastructure bills, all those new projects
Create demand.
create demand for industrial gases.
Got it.
And then, you've got Asia,
The huge market.
massive potential for growth there.
Okay, so lots of potential growth drivers.
Yeah, lots of opportunities.
But we've also talked about some of the risks, right?
Don't forget about those.
We've got the project execution challenges, the geographic concentration. They've got to keep up with technology. That's always changing.
Rapid pace of change.
And it's a capital-intensive industry, so they're going to need a lot of money to keep growing.
Could impact their financial stability?
Right, so it's a bit of a balancing act.
It is.
So let's talk about valuation.
All right.
Historically, their PE ratios have been pretty reasonable,
Yeah, suggesting they might be fairly valued.
but the market can be unpredictable.
Right. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you never know what's going to happen.
Sentiment can change quickly.
Right, but for long-term investors, their dividend payout ratio is pretty attractive.
Yeah, and they've got a history of consistent dividend growth.
So that's good news.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot.
A lot of information.
But I think the big question is, do you think Air Products is well-positioned for the future?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
It's tough to say for sure.
Right.
They've got a lot going for them.
They do.
Strong financials, solid strategy. They're making big bets on the right areas.
Yeah,
But there are risks, no doubt about it.
absolutely.
I think any investor looking at Air Products needs to do their due diligence.
That's always good advice.
Really dig into those risks, weigh them against the potential rewards.
Yeah, and decide for themselves.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's Air Products, a company trying to bridge the gap between industrial gases and the clean energy future.
A fascinating case study.
Yeah, I mean, they're making some bold moves.
Bold moves, but in a potentially very lucrative market.
So we've given you the information, now it's your turn.
Do your research.
Think about it. What do you think? Is Air Products a good bet?
Let us know what you decide.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Until next time. Keep exploring.
See you later.